Hello, lovely people. New adventure unlocked. I'm headed to the next game. My mama's here. We're going to Aqua Zumba. I am getting out of my comfort zone. I am trying fencing today. I'm just there for the vibes. I know nothing about baseball. I'm there for the vibes. Hello, lovely people. Listen. I'm not even gonna fake for y'all, okay? I just watched the Netflix documentary, The Perfect Neighbor. I literally just watched it, and at first I was like, man, it's late at night. I was like, maybe I should review it tomorrow. But I was like, no, let me just get it out the way. And I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I am in my feelings. Like, I need a minute. I'm in my feelings. I'm warning y'all in advance, I'm going to be jumping all over the place. Also, judge me if you want to. I was drinking while I was watching it. I'm still drinking, okay? It is cider and rum, okay? So I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to try to review this show. I'm going to try to review this documentary without anger. But before I review this documentary, I want to read the definition of what I think Susan is, okay? Because I think it will put things in context, okay? Because this is what I do, all right? This is what I do. The definition of a sociopath, okay? Signs of a sociopath. The definition of a sociopath is a person that lacks empathy, guilt, is manipulative, deceitful behavior, impulsive, or aggression action that disregards social norms and feelings of others. Okay? Individuals that are sociopathic may also struggle with maintaining long-term relationships and may be responsible with social or financial obligation. I want y'all to listen to the key words I'm saying. Lack of empathy, guilt, impulsive, or aggressive. That's the person that we're dealing with. So now that I've defined what my diagnosis of Susan is, even though I have not sat in front of her and evaluated her, that'll help put things in context. Because when you're watching this documentary, things don't make sense. You're like, yo, what is this lady on? So I want to lay the groundwork before we review this documentary. So the documentary is called The Perfect Neighbor, which obviously it's a play on words or whatever you want to say, because she's far from that. This is the documentary that is based off of Ajike Owens, the Black mother of 4, and Susan Lorincz, I think is her name, okay? This is based in Marion County, Florida. Now, this documentary is documenting I would say this is well done because they are documenting body cam over the last 2 years. That's how long this has been going on, the last 2 years, okay? So it starts off with a 911 call. That's the 911 call where the neighbor is frantic because Ajike has been, I didn't find another word because YouTube be tripping, but Ajike has been unalived. Well, we didn't know that time, okay? So basically, you start off with, you don't see the neighbors, but you can hear that they're interviewing Ajike's children and they're interviewing neighbors, right? So neighbors are basically saying like, look, she was a nice lady. She didn't bother anybody. Ajike, that is. And everybody in the neighborhood had problems with this lady. Everybody, right? When they're doing the interview, right? And basically it's over. This lady thinks that a certain part of the property is her property, is not her property. They've been fighting over it for years, okay? Now I am gonna play devil's advocate, okay? Because it is important to put certain things in context, right? Apparently Susan has been She don't want the kids anywhere near her house, right? And over the course of 2 years, Susan had called about the police 6 or 7 times, wasting resources. Basically, she says, she starts by saying that Ajike threw a sign at her. It's a sign that's on her yard that says not trespassing. So the kids will go out and play. She'll yell at the kids. The kids will go get the mom, and you could see the body cam interview of Ajike, and she's like, look, I usually don't even come outside, but this time I've had enough. So she goes to her and is like, hey, why are you yelling at my kids? Listen, I am a mother. And those that know me personally know I don't play about mine. So I can't say that I wouldn't do the same. It just really didn't seem like there was any way to be civil with this lady. It just didn't seem like it. Because even when they were not on her property, she had an issue. She just didn't want to see children, and this is a neighborhood full of children. But anyway, so she's complaining about a sign that she said Ajike threw at her. So body cam footage, they're interviewing Ajike, and Ajike is like, look, it's an open space. It's not her property. Now, I looked at the picture. It's right by her property, but it's not her property. The kids are playing football. The kids like to play around, right? So Ajike got upset and picked up the sign, and as she was walking, she threw it behind her. Susan says she threw the sign at her. There are multiple eyewitnesses said that she didn't throw it at the lady. It didn't hit her. She just threw it in frustration. So I need you to keep that in your mind, because later on, towards the end, she said, Susan basically says she's attacked me before. She's talking about the sign, okay? So basically, and nobody in the neighborhood has ever called the police on the kids except for Susan, which should tell you something. Now, usually if there's some problem kids, you have more than one neighbor calling the police, but it was only Karen. And let me preface by saying this too. The neighborhood is diverse. The neighborhood is not just black people. It's black and white. And even some of the white kids that were playing with the black kids complained about Susan. So that's just to give you context, okay? And what also made me really sad was the neighbors were like, well, one of the cops, when she was talking to Ajike, was like, that's why I have a house, because, of things like this. And Ajike said, prayerfully next year. So she basically was planning at some point to move, right? And Ajike was a mother of 4. They describe her as she was a manager at McDonald's, and she was like the mom. She's the mom that would change her schedules to be there for the kids. She was very involved, right? So throughout the course of the documentary, they showed all the 911 calls that Susan made, and it's such a waste of resources. And I have an issue with the cops. Now, the cops, I will say, they didn't harass the kids. They were like, look, even one cop was like, I'd rather kids be outside playing football than robbing and stealing people. And you could tell Susan was like, ugh. Susan had nothing to say, right? But let me say this. The lady doesn't like joy. And I'm like, they kept saying that she was planning on moving. Why didn't she go move to a senior citizen home where there are no kids? Listen, people have a right to not be around kids. So then don't put yourself in positions where you're around kids. Go move into a 65 and older adult community, right? I'm not knocking her for not liking kids. My issue with her is the harassment, the continuous harassment that she did with kids. Now, let me play devil's advocate. I know how kids can be. Kids can be kids. If I know I'm irritating you, I'm going to irritate you some more. Kids' brains are not fully developed, right? And they called her the Karen, right? So every time she would call, the cops would try to talk to her like, hey, look, they're kids. Because one time she complained, she was like, and now that school's even out, you live in a neighborhood full of kids. But again, when you have somebody that's a sociopath, they can't identify, they can't empathize, they can't put themselves in the feelings of other people like, hey, they're just kids, right? She has no empathy, right? Again, she has a right to not like kids. She has a right to, if you look at her life, it looks pretty sad. She works from home. She said she called herself a doctor. I tried to do my research. I don't know what doctor she is. So if you guys know, please put in a comment. She has a right to be recluse, right? It seemed like all the neighbors looked out for each other. It was one neighbor, this one black guy that was like, look, I look out for them. I look out for the kids like they're my own. Everybody in the neighborhood got along but that one neighbor. And it was another neighbor that told the kids that they can play in his yard. And Susan would get upset about that. But Susan, it was not her yard. You know what I mean? So even when the cops would come over, they were friendly with the kids. They were like, yeah, I know kids can be kids. Just, don't bother her. Just don't antagonize her. I do feel like there were times where the kids maybe antagonized her because they knew it would piss her off. But I'm not faulting the kids because, again, their brains are not fully developed. Kids will be kids. You're pissing someone off, you're going to do it some more. Okay? She will call them names. She will call them the R word, the B word, the N word, right? Like it almost seemed like she just didn't want to see them, even when they were not in the yard. And there was one time when she called the cops. She had a truck there. She said, and then, so they told the kids to don't be by the truck. And every 6 minutes, she would turn her alarm on, even when no one was there, right? In addition to her being a sociopath, I do feel like she may have bipolar disorder, though. And I'm going to explain why in a second. Yeah, and so all the kids are doing is playing, right? They're not terrorizing the neighbors. They're not terrorizing the community. All they're doing is just playing. But she had an issue with it. So this started in 2022, right? August 2022, she's calling. September 2022, she's calling. December 22, she's calling. Like she's always calling, right? And she does this thing where she's like, well, did you call the kids the R word? Oh, no. Did you do this to the kids? Oh, no. Right? So she's like appalled that they would even ask her that question. Coincidentally, her memory always seems to be intact when it comes to what the kids did to her, right? Now, keep in mind, when I say kids, these kids are like 8, like 11 years old. And sometimes she will say, like, she's scared that the kids are going to beat her up. You are scared of some 11-year-olds? Okay. And it was witnesses that would say that the kids would be doing nothing. They would not even be on her yard, and she would come out and scream at them, right? It was one call in particular. It was April 25th, 2023, right? And the cop had been there before, right? So she called the cops, and the cop was like, I've dealt with her before. Let me go talk to her. They try to go talk to her, and she's like, Izzy. So Izzy is I think he's the second kid, I think. Yeah, there's an older kid, that's Izzy, yeah. And she's got 4 kids. And basically, she was like, the kid in the red shirt tried to put a puppy in my truck. The neighbor's like, that puppy is like half his size, right? So I don't get the kind of neighborhood they live in. It looks like it's a duplex. So it looks like, I don't know, the way her house looks, she's like in the corner, but I wonder if it's like, is somebody like right next to her? I don't get the neighborhood. So I feel like somebody would tell me. But anyway, yeah, the police were real cool. He was like, I've dealt with it before. It was this one cop that called her an F&B as he was walking away. They cut it off though. She was like, what an F&B. So even saying to each other, she is the only one that calls, right? She's the only one that called. The part was real random. I don't understand what this is about. It was this property owner. It looks like he owns some sort of like, I don't know if it's like a open field or warehouse or whatever. He basically called the cops because he saw Susan ramming her truck into the gate, and she like busted the gate or whatever. So they go to the house and they knock on the door, and she was like, 1 minute. Like the way she answered the door, even the cop was like, geez. So they're like, okay, what's going on? She doesn't want to talk to him. So he's like, okay, if you don't want to talk to me, then basically we're just going to put you in a lineup. The property owner is going to point you out. And then she's like, oh, I want to talk to you. I was panicked. So she flips real fast. First it's like, oh, I'm so scared. Like, I just, I've been raped and beaten. And so this, like, just very histrionic, very like, just, oh, woe is me, And I kept thinking, like, this lady I get bipolar tendencies from her. I really do. But anyway, so let's jump to May 2023, right? On that fateful day. So basically, I guess the boys were, Ajike's kids were at her yard, right? And I guess he left his tablet. So she took his tablet. So he says to her, put my tablet down. He wouldn't do it. She takes his tablet in the house. That's his property, but he was on her property. So he did what he was asked to do. If she bothers you or you have an encounter with her, she's still an adult, so go get an adult. So he said to her, I'm going to go get my mom. So she said, go get her. Now, again, as a mom, if my child came running to me and said, Mommy, the Karen took my tablet, I'm going to go over there and say, why you got my child's tablet? So apparently she threw roller skates at him. And so Ajike goes over there because of the tablet, right? And so I think it's very interesting that we didn't see her ring cam video of the confrontation. She's got a camera, and by the way, she was always recording the kids. So why don't we have a video footage of the confrontation, right? I know sometimes you could see they showed a scene from Susan's phone, and she recorded them, and they are not near her house. Like, if this is the sign that says the no trespassing sign, they're right here. The way this lady acted, you would think they're like right here by her door. No. So anyway, all right. So she goes over there so according to Susan, she goes over there. She's like, I'm gonna KILLU come out. She's banging for 10 minutes. She was in fear of her life, and she shot through the door. Now keep in mind, she has a door, she has a deadbolt, she has a screen door. But she was in fear of her life. Okay? So you cut to another scene where you see, I think Izzy is the name. He's running to the neighbor's house like, he shot my mom, he shot my mom. So then everybody goes out there and it's mass chaos. Now I'm wondering, like, not the kids, but any of the adults, like nobody knew CPR. Like, oh, that really like broke my heart. It just was mass chaos, right? So you can hear Susan call 911. She's like, I'm frightened for my life. All right, no, let me back up. The son calls 911 first. It's like, she shot my mom, she shot my mom. Like, why would she do that? Why would she do that? Then Susan calls, and Susan is like, I was shaking. She was banging on the door. I was terrorized for my life, and she shot through the door. I couldn't watch this thing, y'all. They show the body cam footage run to where Ajike's lifeless body is. I turn. There's certain things that I cannot watch because it's not good for my mental health. So I turn. Like, people are gonna find me kind of crazy, but till this day, sidebar, till this day, I have never seen the George Floyd video. I might have seen stills of it. I might see the cops, but I've intentionally, I don't know how, but I'm really good at that. I had never seen the video, and I refuse to see it. Because things like that, I have to be mindful of what I feed myself. So anyway, when the body cam footage came, I just turned and I could see like her that she had a red shirt on. So I turned and I couldn't look. But anyway, it's mass chaos. The neighbors are going crazy. The poor kids are just devastated. Oh my God. The cop went to Izzy and was like, are you okay? Are you hurt? He said, are you hurt? He said, no, but my heart is broken. For that little boy to lose his mother in this capacity, y'all understand the guilt. This boy will feel guilty forever because he's going to feel like, had I never left my tablet, my mom would be alive. And I wanted to reach through the screen and say, baby, no, this woman was a ticking time bomb. This woman was looking for any reason to pop off. And as a mom, I don't agree with her going over there, but I understand it. Because sometimes I got a little one. I don't know what I'm going to encounter when he gets older, right? As a mom, you have this motherly instinct. You've got this woman always calling them names, always calling them retards. So she had enough. And then you're going to take my son's iPad. I just pray that this does not cause them to have hate in their hearts. And if they ever see this video, just know that I don't know your mom, but as a mom, she probably was like, I would do it all over again. Because, you know, and I'm jumping ahead, but they showed the Reverend Al Sharpton gave the eulogy, and he said, you know, no mom is going to want to see their children be degraded. And what's really, really sad is he kept saying, I just want to see her move. Is she moving? Is she moving? Then the dad, I'm glad to see that their father is involved in their life. The dad came and basically he's hugging him. And then the cops tell him that she's gone and he breaks down. It's something about seeing a grown man cry that is just heartbreaking. And then, here's the thing, let me jump. When they go to Susan's house, she comes out, she's very calm. When they handcuff her and they go walk her to the cop car, I would have jumped her. The neighbors should have jumped her. Oh, they should have jumped her. But the other white neighbor, I don't know her name. I love her. She knocked on the door. She's like, you B, why did you do that? Why did you do that? And she's very calm. You know, I think it's funny how if you just took somebody's life, she sounds all distraught on the phone because she's setting it up. But then when the cops come, she's cool and calm as a cucumber, even in a police car. If you didn't mean to take somebody's life, you'd be like, like throughout, like you would be so like distraught and devastated. Is she okay? Is she going to be alive? Is she okay? Tell me she's alive, like, because you didn't mean to do it, right? So when Susan gets interrogated, same thing. She's cool, she's calm, she's collected, right? She's leaving out the tablet story, right? Oh, they were bothering me. They've been terrorizing me. She conveniently leaves out the tablet part. When they tell her that Ajike is dead, she puts her head down. She looks up, not a tear in sight. Again, no empathy, sociopath, no empathy. And then the poor dad has to be the one to tell the children that their mother is gone. And I'm glad that they gave him the opportunity to do that. He kept saying, I have to tell them. And I like how he was like, today's been a very bad day. And I have some really sad news for you. And the kids just broke down. So they interrogate Susan and they basically was like, hey, like we can't, they keep telling her, we're detaining you, we're not arresting you. They basically let her go. Okay, now we're in for 2023 and there's demonstrations because people are like, why is this? I do agree. Why is she not being detained while there's investigation? So that's the racial disparities that I don't like. Because her family is right. If it was one of us, you're going to detain us while you're doing an investigation. Why is she not being detained? Right? So it looks like she had been planning this because they asked her questions about the stand your ground law, and did she look up the information, but, oh yeah, so they take her, right? They give her a ride to go to her house to get her stuff to take to the hotel. And I looked up Susan's family. Her family's jacked up. Like her sister allegedly abused this autistic boy. And she said she couldn't care for him anymore. They went into her house. It was covered in cat feces and all this crap. Her family got some stuff for her. I think her family got some mental health issues. But anyway, so they basically tell her, okay, so at 8:54 p.m., you call 911 basically to say that this woman, you call to say basically like these kids are terrorizing you at 8:54. You hung up with the cops at 8:59. At 9:01, you call and say you shot the lady. That's 2 minutes. So if somebody's banging on your door, first of all, you are inside. You thought she was gonna bust through a deadbolt. You could have gone all to the way to the furthest back of your room and wait for the cops to come. Even if she felt like, okay, sometimes I've called and the cops have not come. Yes, because they know you're wasting resources. I would have called the cops back and said, hey, now she's at my door. She didn't do that. She shot through the door. And there's nowhere that said, oh, I'm going to kill you, right? But let me back up. When they took her to her house to go get her stuff, again, I love that neighbor. She was pissed. She was like, the cop went to her and was like, she was yelling at Susan. The cop went to her and was like, please make my life easy. Don't say nothing to her. She said, make your life easy. Make your life easy. She got 4 children. She was like, you are disgusting. I mean, she was going in, and I said, yes, that's how you use your privilege. She was going in on her as she should. She was pissed because all the neighbors got along except for her. So she was the problem. Now, here's where I don't understand this part. When the cops are like, oh yeah, we do this with everybody. Is there anything that you want to say to the children? I was like, why are they doing it? I hope they didn't give that letter to the children. So they said, yeah, maybe it's some kind of police strategy. If it is, put it down in the comments because I don't know what was going on with that. She picks up so they leave. She picks up the piece of money and said, sorry, I shot your mom. I didn't mean to shoot her. I shot her out of fear. I thought she was going to kill me. Again, remember, look up the definition of sociopath. Lack of empathy, narcissistic tendencies, okay? So they tell her that she's going to be arrested. She's going to be charged with manslaughter. She's like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not going. As if she said, I can't do this, I'm not going to do it, that they were going to get up and walk away. They're like, Susan, we can do this the easy way, we can do this the hard way. You got to stand up. She's like, no. She's like this, no, I can't do it. No, I can't do it. Girl. And so I'm looking at the cops like, I'm looking at detectives or whoever. I'm like, y'all are really gentle with this chick. It's like they're protecting her. I'm like, sometimes I really try not to make things about race. I really, 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 really try, but they make it hard. I will say I do give the cops props where when they came to the neighborhood, they were cool with the kids. And I don't know if it's the same cops or it got transferred over, but I was looking like, if y'all don't snatch her up and put handcuffs on her. Anyway, so yeah, her family, Ajike's family were like diligent. They had demonstrations. They were talking to the state's attorney's office. They would not let up. So kudos to the family. Her mom, who is beautiful, Ajike's mom was basically like, she feels bad because she was telling Ajike to let it go, but it was like festering. You know, tablet or no tablet, this was bound to happen because this lady was a ticking time bomb. And I wish the cops would say to her, stop using our resources, stop wasting our resources. But I guess they can't, right? Because can't you charge someone with like abuse of like 911 call or something like that? Because they kept saying, well, if you have any more problems, call us back. So she kept thinking she'd call back. But I just wish they would have just said like, look, they're kids, they're going to play. You know, the more you yell at them, the more they're going to antagonize you. Now, should kids be antagonizing her? No, but I don't think they were antagonizing her every time. But yeah, you're going to harass me, I'm going to harass you back. Kids will be kids, okay? Again, she shouldn't move because, again, the entire neighborhood is full of kids and you're the only one with the problem. But again, I thought it was funny how she would go from frantic to calm. And that's how I knew it was an act. Go to trial or whatever, and she looks different. Like jail or prison or what, it has done a number on her. She went from this big old blob to this skinny old lady. I was like, yeah, she's like, I'm not eating this prison food. She looks different. She looked terrible. She looked terrible before. She looked terrible now. So they found her guilty. They found her guilty. So justice for the family. They found her guilty. Ajike's mom is taking care of the kids. And what was interesting about, they said about the stand your ground law, that law has had a rise from 8% to 11% of Florida. Florida, y'all need to relook at this law. And the stand your ground law has been more favorable to whites and blacks. You cannot tell me there's no racial component to this. If you do, you're lying. And honestly, I pray that the mom, that Ajike's mom, has them in some kind of therapy. I pray that the children still learn to have love. This is a trauma that will never go away. And I hope that they are surrounded by good, healthy people that when they start to, they will always blame themselves. But I pray that when they start to feel guilty, they are able to work through that guilt, because that guilt's not going to go away. I agree that Ajike should have gone over there. No. But it's like, how many times are you going to harass my kids before I'm going to see about you? And to me, what's the solution, right? So let's say she never went over there. Now she got this boy's tablet. So what's the solution? She just continues to harass these children over and over and over and over again until a whole year till she moves. Like I'm trying to find another way to this, because nobody's changing their stance. She is not going to finally accept that she lives in a neighborhood for kids, and I don't know why she never moved, right? Because it was another neighbor that was being interviewed that was like, she said she was going to move, so why didn't you move? And Ajike, and then the kids, that I guess that is a reasonable area for them to play in. So the kids are going to play. It's like her request was unreasonable because they're not playing in your yard. They're playing next to it. And it doesn't seem like in that cul-de-sac or that neighborhood there was anywhere else to play. But again, when you don't have empathy and when you live a miserable life, you want everybody to be miserable. I can understand when people are like, it's not even worth it because now these kids have no mom and now they're motherless. But again, I want you to put yourself in that position. If somebody is continuing to harass your kids, call them the N-word, call them the B-word, call them the F-word, throwing roller skates at them, throwing an umbrella at them, all this stuff because they're just being kids. What would you do? Would you tell your children, well, don't come get me, just, and then if people like find somewhere else to play? It didn't seem like in that neighborhood there was anywhere else to play other than that open area. So I can't judge Ajike for going over there. I don't think she should have, but I understand it. So I can't judge her for going over there. I just feel sad for her children. And again, this woman is a very sad person. Now, apparently she's, when I looked at the court transcript, she's got a history of trauma, and that's still not an excuse. Okay? She may have PTSD, and the children are overstimulating, and the children are overwhelming, and the children are irritable. Sometimes if you have PTSD, everything sets you off, then you need to not be in that environment. I don't know what her access to resources are, but if you said you were moving, why didn't you move? If you have PTSD, then you need to go find an environment where things are not loud and overstimulating like children. Everybody has a choice. I want to say that the documentary was good, but I feel guilty saying that it was good because it's based on a true story. And I like, And I can't even, I don't even want to say like, sometimes you watch things like this and you're angry at all white people, but I can't even be that way because, again, some of the other neighbors were white and they were going for Ajike. They were not for Susan. So I just pray that the boys are being well taken care of, and I'm going to say a prayer for them tonight. Pray that they grow up to be productive members of society and use this trauma for a bigger purpose. Very frustrating. It's very frustrating that it's 2025. This happened in 2023. Okay? And we still deal with BS. We still deal with it. You can't even have your children go play outside in peace. Oh, kids are on their tablet too much. Kids are doing TikTok too much. Oh, kids on social media too much. Kids need to go outside and play. And that's what you're doing. They're going outside and play, and still there's an issue with it. I don't want to wish ill on somebody, but may that Susan B just live a miserable life in jail. May somebody, let her regret. Child. See, that's the Lord. That's the Lord. I'm done. I'm not editing this out. That is the Lord saying, child,